In this video, we're going to look at some things like pan, zoom, play, pause, some keyboard and mouse shortcuts, how to use the spacebar to play something, the rotation tool, and the scrub tool, just to name a few. Now, when you look at your screen, I'm not sure what yours looks like at the moment, but I want you to select this quick down arrow right here and fit it to the window. It'll center it up and fit your file to your window. And I want to actually create a circle or an oval that we're going to do some basic animations with so that we can use some of the pan, the zoom, and the play, and the pause, etc. So in order to do that, we're going to actually create a new symbol and we're going to put it in our library. So I want to come up to the top and select Insert and New Symbol and just call it Ball and a 1. I want you to make sure that it is a movie clip so it's easier for us to animate at the moment, and click OK. Now you notice we're in the ball 1 symbol. Here's our scene 1, here's ball 1. Come over here and find your ellipse or oval tool. Set the colors you want to use. I'm going to use black for my stroke and red for my fill, and just make us a nice ball out there, a nice round ball. So now when you look into your library, you have in your library this symbol you just created called ball. Now I want to come back to my scene. I don't really have anything on my scene right now. I want to rename this layer. I'm going to double click it. I'm going to call it ball in 1. So there it is. Nothing's there yet. And this very first keyframe in my timeline, I want to put my ball. So I'm going to come over here, grab it, drag it, and drop it in. So now I've got my ball sitting there. I'm going to select my Move tool right here, the selection tool. I'm going to bring it right here. Now when I put something from the library inside of my movie, I can resize it any size I want. So I'm going to select here. I'm going to get the Resize or Free Transform tool. And I'm just going to bring it down and make it a little bit smaller. Right about there is good. And bring it to this bottom corner. So now I've got the ball in here and I can start trying to animate it. I'm just going to do some very simple animations. I'm going to click on the 25th frame in my timeline. I'm going to select Insert, Timeline, and Keyframe. So it's got a copy of this at that spot. I'm going to go to frame 50 and the same thing. Insert, Timeline, Keyframe. So now we've got all the way out to 50 frames. I'm going to do the same thing at 75. Insert, Timeline, Keyframe. In here. Insert, Timeline, Keyframe. Now they're just sitting out there. This is my scrub. When you hear the term scrub, I'm scrubbing along my timeline by grabbing this and dragging it back and forth. Nothing's really happening because it's all sitting in the same spot. Now what I want to do is select all these frames here. I'm going to come back up to Insert, and I'm going to select Classic, create a classic tween. So again, nothing's really happening. They're all sitting here at the same location. Notice on the classic tween, this background for this layer turned purple, which is fine. But I want to move this thing around. So I'm going to go to this location of this keyframe, and I'm going to take this and I'm going to move it up here. I'm going to make it a little bit bigger. I'm going to go to frame 50. I'm going to move it over here. I'm going to make it super tiny. Now I'm going to go to frame 75 and I'm going to bring it up over here, make it big again and squashy. And finally I'm going to get to frame 100 and I'm going to put it way up here into the top of this timeline. So I've made these changes at these key points. There's 50, 75, and 100. Now when I scrub this backwards, notice I've animated this ball. So that's a basic classic tween. Now that we have this classic tween, we can do some of these other navigation things that I'd like to show you. So we've moved it. The next thing I want to do, down here at the bottom, you should see some different icons. If I hit play, it'll play that animation for me. I can step it back by using this, go to the first frame, or step it ahead one frame at a time if I want, back one frame at a time, or maybe go all the way to the end. So these are all ways to play what's happening here on my timeline, along with scrubbing it to see what's happening. Now the next thing I want to show you, I'm going to scrub it back to the beginning, and I'm just going to press the space bar on my keyboard. Normally when you press the space bar on the keyboard, it plays, but apparently it's not going to this time. But hopefully it'll work for you if you push the space bar. The other thing I want to show you are shortcuts. If you come up into any of these drop-down menus, you're going to notice there's the actual command, or you can do Control F8, for example. If you go into Modify and you look at any of these, some of these have keyboard shortcuts, like in Shape. Here's all these keyboard shortcuts you can use. In Line, same thing, keyboard shortcuts. I will not really use keyboard shortcuts in our tutorials. I'll go down through the different drop-down menus and different tools over here so that it's just easier for you to understand. But you can know whenever you see this that that is an actual keyboard shortcut. All right, I think that's all we want to do at the moment in terms of looking at how this works. I hope this has been helpful to you, and we'll move on to our next step in our learning activities. Two more things I want to show you are ways to shift and using the shift key and the space bar to rotate the stage. Make sure in the move tool, I'm holding down my shift and space bar, and notice this little symbol appears, and I can rotate the stage to a new angle if you want. So shift, space, I'm going to put it back now. The other thing I want to scrub back and play this animation, it's not the space bar you need to click on, it's actually the Enter key on your keyboard. If you press it, it will play your animation. Finally, up here, if you go to Control, here's the play, you can press Enter. Rewind, Shift plus, go to the end, Shift plus, step backwards. Here's all of these commands down here, but in this drop-down menu, you can test your movie in your browser or just test it inside Animate. So if I go to Test in Browser and press Enter, it will come up and play my little movie for me inside my browser window. Cool? All right, so these are some ways that you can navigate in your document, especially after you've created at least an animation or something that you can play back in.